At some point in this work, something changes. Not dramatically, not all at once, but you notice a change in small things, in what you're spending your energy on, in how you talk about what you want. You used to spend a lot of time explaining why it wasn't possible for you to pursue the thing you want. And now you're spending that same energy figuring out how to make it happen. That is not a small thing. That's the shift. And today, I want to talk about what comes next, what strategy looks like when it's finally built on solid ground. Here's something I've watched happen a lot in my work. Someone comes in with a plan. It's a good plan. It's a solid plan. They've done all the research. They've mapped the steps. They are working the thing. Like my grandmother used to say, plan your work and work your plan. They are doing that. But underneath all of that, there's a quiet voice. And that voice doesn't say, I can do this. It says, I hope this works. It says, maybe this time. It says, I'll believe it when I see it. And you know what? That voice doesn't stop the work, but it does shape it. It shows up as second guessing every decision, starting over when something doesn't go perfectly, needing external validation before taking the next step, working hard towards something you don't fully believe you're allowed to have. That's not a strategy problem. That's a belief problem wearing a strategy costume. And no amount of better planning fixes it. So what changes when the belief work actually takes hold is different. The first thing I notice is the energy. Not enthusiasm exactly, not that kind of bright, performative readiness. Something quieter than that. The conversation stops being about obstacles and starts being about options. The question stops being, why can't I do this? And becomes, what would it take to make this happen? Those can sound similar, but they're not. One is a conversation with a wall. The other is a conversation with a door. Second thing I notice is how they talk about the future. People who are strategizing around an unshifted belief tend to be ambivalent about what they say they want. There's desire and there's doubt running at the same time. After the shift, the doubt doesn't disappear, not at all. But the desire gets louder. They start to relish the future, not in a fantasy way, in a specific, practical, I can picture Tuesday way. And there's a third thing I've noticed. They start taking better care of themselves. This one was a surprise. because it's not as a reward. It's not as self-indulgence. It's not because they want to be hot or they want to, they care about how they look. It's because they understand something they didn't before. They understand that they are the vehicle. Whatever they're building has to move through them. And they get that you cannot run a vehicle on empty. So rest becomes strategic. Boundaries become strategic. Saying no becomes strategic. Not selfish. Necessary. Here's what I want you to understand about strategy after a belief shift. It doesn't feel like strategy. Not in the way the old strategy did. The old strategy required convincing. Convincing yourself it was possible. Convincing yourself you deserved it. Convincing yourself to start. This is different. The resistance is still there. I want to be clear about that. Your nervous system does not retire. And the old beliefs don't vanish. But they have less grip. Because you understand them now. You know where they came from. You know what they were protecting. And you started building evidence that the new thing is survivable. So the plan you make now sits differently. You're not white knuckling it anymore. You're not waiting for yourself to sabotage it. You're not doing it to prove something. You're doing it because it's the next step. And the next step feels like the obvious thing. Not easy. Obvious. There's a difference. I want to be honest with you about something. You won't know the shift has happened until you're already on the other side of it. It doesn't come with an announcement. It doesn't feel like a breakthrough moment. It feels like a Tuesday. A Tuesday where you sat down to do the thing and just did it. Without the argument, without the negotiation, without the carpet that needed vacuuming first. And if you heard my other videos, you know what I mean by that. And you might not even notice until later when you look back and realize that you've been moving quietly, consistently, without the old weight. That's not a destination. That's a direction. And the work of the belief reconstruction framework is not to get you to the end of that road. It's to clear enough of the path that you can finally start walking it. That's the invitation. Not a perfect life, a possible one. Be well, everybody.